jump into the potential of Canada-Ukraine trade, we need to understand what is this Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement is about, and why it's important for businesses that actually are interested not only in export, but also in importing from both countries. Because from FTA, both exporters, Canadian exporters and Canadian importers can benefit. The same applies for Ukrainian exporters and importers. And at the very end, what we expect an increase of investments from both sides, and actually the cooperation that Ukrainian companies would become a part of the global value chains of the Canadian and international businesses. Now coming back to the Ukrainian exports to Canada. What you can see, the Ukrainian export actually decreased dramatically in 2015 as compared to 2014 and even as compared to 2013. Definitely, if we're talking about decrease of export, that is the value. It's not a volume. And the major actually, those figures, what they show that Ukrainian is highly reliable on commodity exports. And any changes on commodity prices such as metal, grains, corn, definitely leads to the decrease of Ukrainian export. And that actually shows that Ukraine needs investment into the value-added production of value-added products. And even if you look at the Ukrainian export at the moment, we see that the major items are metallurgy, machine building, agriculture, and other industrial products and chemicals. Most of them are raw materials or materials with a very low, actually, processing. If we look into the figures from imports from Canada, they again are rather low. It shows again that there is a huge potential. And most of them are actually, again, the raw materials or the sources. It's not the machine building production, it's not actually the ready actually and processed goods. Again, it gives us, some issue of cooperation. Now coming back to the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. Actually, Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement is an important addition to the Ukrainian growing network of the FTA that we discussed in the morning. What we had, in addition to those agreements that we have, this is the first agreement that Ukraine had with the North American state and with this continent. Therefore, it's an important step for us, for Ukrainian businesses to enter those markets. What we can see from that, we had 6 rounds of negotiation. We initialed the agreement on 14th July. We expect the signing in July or like this summer. After that, the next step is that the agreement needs to go through the ratification in both parliament. And in Ukraine, the ratification process, in addition to ratification in the parliament, also engages the signing of the agreement by the ratification document by the president. And then we have an entry into force. So, the date of entry into force depends on how quick we will be able to go with the agreement through the parliament and all national procedures. But in any case, what it gives to the business, it gives to the business additional time to establish the contact, actually even to sign memorandums of understanding in order to be the first one to jump into these opportunities and to be the first one that would benefit from the advantages that this agreement brings. And now about the overview. This FTA, as all others, is the agreement that actually aims at making trade between two countries cheaper, faster, and more predictable. It is a very comprehensive legal document. It covers goods. It does not cover services. And it comprises of 19 chapters covering inter alia trade in goods, rules of origin, trade facilitation, the sanitary measures, technical barriers measures, government procurement, intellectual property, which is also a very important part of the free trade, and trade-related cooperation. In addition to that, there are dispute settlement in case Ukraine and Canada have some disagreement on actual interpretation of this agreement. And it has some chapters that are, kind of a standard for a Canadian free trade agreement, like environment protection and environment protection obligation. Such broad coverage and substantial trade preferences exchanged between two countries create concrete opportunities for exporters and contributing to increase Ukrainian attractiveness for Canadian investments. And now coming back, to the coverage of this agreement, access of Ukrainian goods to Canadian market. What we have, from the very beginning, we have the elimination of all import duties for all agricultural goods except for over quota goods for the agri products indicated in the table, which is live poultry, including frozen and fat, some dairy products, eggs and egg products, cheeses and sugar. And for all industrial goods, which is very important thing, so all industrial goods are duty-free immediately, except some automotives, which will receive a zero duty-free treatment for import into Canada in 7 years. So in 7 years, we will have a zero duty-free treatment for all Ukrainian industrial imports into Canada. And now access to Ukrainian market. What access to Ukrainian market? What we have? We have zero duty-free rates for the good for a lot of agricultural products, except for those that have a transitional period. What actually transitional period mean? It means that we are coming from a regular duty, which would normally amount from about like 7% to a zero in a transitional period. In the 3 years, 5 years, or the 7 years is the maximum term. And we have additional level of protection for Ukrainian meat and cheese products, which provides for partial liberalization. So we will not have a full elimination of import duties, but rather partial elimination. We have a special quotas. Quotas mean that you can import into Ukraine for certain actually amounts of goods. Thereafter, you can also import, but you will need to pay the ordinary tariffs, and which is applied for chilled pork, offal, and fat, and sugar is exempted from this agreement. In terms of industrial products, the agreement, covers all access to Ukrainian market of almost all industrial products, except providing for 3 transitional periods for some of the materials which are included here, which is like for 3 years, building materials, household tools, industrial machinery, aircraft parts, 5 years for electric apparatus, ray tubes, motorcycles, and some others. And the longest transitional period is 7 years from entry into force for cars, tractors, and spares. And now coming back to the to the access to the highlights of this agreement. What we have here, we have much more than only duty-free access of goods to both markets. We have here also the preferential market access, new market opportunities for traders. Again, I would like to stress that the agreement is not only for exporters, it's also for importers, and it's also for producers that could benefit from much cheaper raw materials, inputs, and actually production lines. It, again, third one, provides for access to government procurement. Both Ukraine and Canada are rather huge states, and they procure a lot both on the level of the state government and locally. Therefore, the agreement provides for access for businesses from both countries to the government procurement. It provides special provisions on intellectual property right protection. Again, which is most important here, we have a self-certification regime for origin declaration provided here. This actually regime facilitates trade between the countries by cutting compliance costs, maximizing the benefits for tariff liberalization. In simple words, the self-certification regime for origin declaration reduces the cost of your export into Ukraine and of Ukrainian export into Canada, because you do not need to go through these lengthy procedures, actually hiring this customs broker, and you can do it all by yourself. And again, it benefits the trade, and again, it creates additional reason for investing, like for mutual investment. What I would like to say again is the disciplines in the area of the sanitary measures and technical barriers to trades. The major idea of the provisions that we have in the CUFTA is to constrain, actually to prevent both states from imposing any measures that would provide constraints to trade. The idea is that the trade between our states would work very smoothly, and therefore we would do utmost that we can do in order to trade to go as smoothly as possible. What we see here, you know, like to summing up all that, is that, you know, we are confident that this agreement that our country will sign soon will help boosting bilateral trade and restoring it to pre-crisis level. The agreement establishes a good framework and opens up a number of opportunities, and as highlighted in my presentation before, we believe that this agreement would be the factor of attracting Canadian investments into Ukraine, and actually not only working for a local market, but also exporting abroad and back to Canada. You know, I would, you know, just to end up, there is a great proverb that said that eat and drink with your friend, but do not trade with them. What I believe in Canada, that it should be vice versa. We should not only drink and eat with you, but we also need to trade with you. Thank you.